There are times in the field with my dogs that I need to quickly bring them back to me when they're at distances beyond half a mile or more. I rely on toner training to accomplish this. It's effective and easy to train. Let's get started. So all toner training is teaching your dog to return to you when it hears a sound emitted by your collar. In my case, I use a Garmin Alpha. What we have here is a collar with a transceiver receiver on it and a handheld GPS unit. This is a combination electronic collar and tracking collar, so I can give my dog electronic stimulation to correct behavior. I can emit a tone with this collar, and I can see where my dog is on a map anywhere around me. These work off line of sight communication, and what that means is if you're in the flat land, the curvature of the earth eventually will put these out of range with each other. That's miles and miles away, so you can keep track with your dog if you're in a flat area for miles with these. If you're in the hills like I am, if they get on the other side of a mountain, I lose communication with my dog. That usually happens around here in Arkansas. About 3/4 of a mile, I get reliable communication with my dog. All right, to begin your toner training with your dog, you're gonna wanna take treats. I like to use bologna. I buy it at Walmart. You can get 5 pounds of it for $10. Cut it in little 1/2 inch by 1 inch chunks. You wanna take your collar system and you want to take your dog to a pretty distraction-free area that the dog can't escape from you. So my fenced-in backyard here in the subdivision works really good, but if you don't have a place like that, you can literally use a living room in the city. It doesn't matter. You just don't want your dog to be able to run away and stay away from you. So what we do is we take our collar, we put it on the dog, and in the beginning, we literally just hit this toner button. So the dog hears those beeps, and as soon as he hears those beeps, we give him a treat. And it's not going to take the dog long to learn that whenever it hears those beeps, it gets rewarded, and he's going to be wanting to follow you around. And I do that like just 5 minutes a day, every day when I come home after work. And you really want to do this for a lot of repetitions. You want that dog to hear that beep and be excited and come running to you. Once you've done this enough with your dog, and it knows when it hears those beeps, it comes running to you, and has a firm understanding of those beeps means come to you, and you know that, it's time to phase out the treats and treat this like any other command where it doesn't have an option to not come to you. Now, before you do that, you have to know that your dog understands that the shock from this collar that you're going to hit it with when it chooses to not follow the beep command of come, it has to understand that that means no. It has to be familiar with that shock already. I like to introduce my dogs to the stimulation from that collar to correct behavior by revisiting an obedience lesson that they already do. So in this case, it'll be loose leash walking. If you need to see how to do the loose leash walking, I've got a video of that linked to this video. So normally in the loose leash walking, when the dog hits the end of the leash, I say no, and using the prong collar, it puts the pressure on itself. So all I do is I put this on the dog instead of the prong collar, and I take him for a walk, just as I would with loose leash walking. And when he hits the end of the lead there, instead of getting the pressure from the prong, I still say no just like I would, but on the lowest setting possible on the collar, I hit the nick feature, just the one-time nick feature. And so I'm replacing the stimulation from the prong collar with the e-collar. It's very important to start at the lowest setting and work your way up. You want to watch your dog. You want to get your dog's attention. If you see him notice the little head turn or something when you hit the button to nick him, and you get the response, you get the refocusing of attention from the end of the leash back to you, that's all you need to do. You also really want to make sure that you have a good, solid connection with the dog. What you don't want to happen is you have this on too loose, and the dog's hitting the end of the collar, and you're trying to give it correction, and it's not grounding, so you keep turning up the level of the collar, and then all of a sudden it connects, and you shock your dog with way too much stimulation that it needs to get the behavior. You could run into problems that way. So before you start giving your dog nicks, whenever he hears the toner, the beep, to come back to you, familiarize your dog with what those nicks from your collar actually means. All right, so once you have zero doubts that your dog 100% understands what the correction is on that e-collar, it's time to proceed. And what I like to do is I like to get a long rope, like 50-foot rope, go to Walmart, buy the cheap rope, whatever. They make expensive leashes for this if you want to buy that stuff. It doesn't matter. And I tie my dog I tie it to a different collar. You don't tie it to your e-collar. You put a regular collar on them. And I tie to that, and then I just repeat the drill. I will hit the toner, and if the dog doesn't come, he gets a correction, and I pull the dog to me. The moment the dog starts voluntarily coming to me, I stop the pressure of the e-collar. I stop hitting him with the e-collar. It's very important. But if the dog's fighting you, the dog doesn't want to come, it needs to get pressure. You have, on this Garmin Alpha, I have a momentary nick, and I also have a continuous. And I will hold the pressure on the dog until the dog starts moving to me. The rope is very important. You don't want to create a situation where the dog bolts across your backyard, or if you got to do this and like sneak into a baseball field in a park or something, if you don't have a fenced in backyard, you don't want that dog to be able to try to avoid the stress that you're putting on him and like run to a corner, and then you're stuck in a situation where you don't know what to do and you might be shocking your dog too much. So like a 50-foot rope will take care of all of that. It'll learn real fast. It gets the toner. The moment it decides to not come to you, it gets the pressure and he runs right to you. You want to repeat this over and over and over again until the dog no longer ever even thinks about not listening to you before you ever try it with the rope unclipped. All right, so you've got this mastered on the rope, and now it's time to do this with unclipping the rope. It's really important that you stay in these distraction-free, fenced-in areas when you do this, and you get it down there before you start working in distractions. So you literally, now we just unclip the dog from the rope in the same backyard or wherever you've been doing this, and you give him the toner, encourage him, praise him when he starts coming your way, stimulate with the electronic collar, shock him whenever he's ignoring the command. And you get that response, that come to you response as soon as he hears that. You just get that like a machine response in this distraction-free area. And then once you have this down in this distraction-free area, you need to start thinking about the areas that you're going to be taking your dog to and expecting your dog to perform this drill under. So for me, that's hunting. I'm taking my dogs out to wild places. I'm letting them hunt, but I don't care if they're treed. I don't care what's going on. Maybe a thunderstorm's coming up. Maybe I hear coyotes getting close and I want to recall my dogs. When they hear that tone, they have to come to me. But you have to phase that in your training. You can't just take them from a distraction-free place and go put them in an area where their senses are just overloaded with new smells and squirrels and rabbits and deer running around and expect them to listen to you. They're not going to. Those distractions are going to overpower their desires and they're going to go off after them. So once you have that down in a confined, controlled area that's distraction-free, slowly go out and start introducing distractions little by little. Stay with that distraction that you introduce until it's no longer an issue. Then you can work in a little tougher of a distraction. And you just build like that until you're actually taking your dog on a hunt and you're recalling him through everything, every situation you could possibly see, recalling that dog through in the places you guys are going to go together. And that's toner training. I hope you found the information in the video useful. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed, and feel free to leave any questions in the comments.